A portion of this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Earlier this year, I started a series called When Phones Were Fun to kind of celebrate the lost era of experimental design in mobile tech. Well, unbeknownst to me, LG was also waxing nostalgic about some of its own phones of fun times past, including one that enjoyed a blink-and-you'll-miss-it cameo in the opening scene of Iron Man. Since then, years have gotten longer, and phone names have gotten shorter. I'm Michael Fisher, the year is 2020, and the phone is the LG Wing. I spent part of my week with the Wing on a 100-mile adventure from Greenpoint to Greenport, New York, mostly so I could test its gimbal camera in the swivel mode for which it was built.
Starting a relaxing Sunday off right with a zip car with no coolant, no fuel card that doesn't work. Kind of smells like weed. Good time.
But before we hit the road, let's hit the basics. Under the hood, the Wing is essentially an LG Velvet. Same processor, same storage, similar battery capacity, and same size display. But where the Velvet needed an accessory to reach its dual display potential, the Wing's second screen is just a swipe away. The slider deploys with reassuring consistency, and when you stow that screen, it locks into place with a slick clack that never fails to remind me of the T-Mobile Sidekick. It's very well built, and while its IP54 rating doesn't give it the water resistance as other phones, it is rated to survive splashes from any direction, which is at least a leg up over its weird phone cousins in the foldable category. My only complaints about the hardware are the use of a mirror finish on the glass back, which is much too easy to smudge.
Love how this IMEI sticker didn't come off cleanly, so now I gotta Windex the back of the phone and hope it doesn't smudge forever. Am I scratching this thing? I hate mirror finishes!
And its cumbersome size. I use my 12 South PowerPick wireless charger as a measure for whether a phone is too tall or not, and yeah, this scores 11 out of 10 Commander Rikers. Audiophiles will be disappointed to hear about the removal of the headphone jack and quad DAC that LG typically includes in its flagships, but this isn't really a flagship. It's an experiment, one which asks the same questions LG started asking a couple years ago. How can a second screen make a smartphone better? Now, for some use cases, the company's earlier offerings make more sense. For example, side-by-side displays are better for consulting one document while annotating another. The Wing excels when you want to consume content while dabbling in another app. You know, stick CBS up top and Twitter down below so you can doom scroll while you disco. Or keep an eye on your Uber while you telegram. Music while you map. Message while you meet. I don't need to keep going, you get it. LG's software definitely still has its trip-ups, which I'll talk about in a moment, but the concept makes sense. When it's in basic mode, it's your typical Android smartphone, from feeds to phone calls. But when you deploy the Wing, you get a custom launcher with a carousel of apps optimized for widescreen. Tap on a text field up top, and the keyboard pops up down below. Or, check this out, toggle the trackpad, and you get an honest-to-goodness mouse, complete with pointer and two-finger scrolling. It's not really useful in apps, but on websites that haven't been optimized for touch, it's just brilliant. Of course, it's in the crazy gimbaled camera mode that the Wing truly soars. But that same camera is also, in some ways, a gilded cage. Join Dual Davids and me for wine tasting with the Wing after a quick word from my sponsor. It's rare that I get to say this about a sponsor, so listen up. I haven't stopped using Surfshark since the first time we partnered. There are plenty of great VPNs out there, but Surfshark is the only one with this combination. 1. Traditional VPN features, like browsing safely from public Wi-Fi or watching geo-restricted movies or TV shows. Let's be honest, you've probably got a lot of time on your hands right now. 2. Privacy beyond a simple VPN. HackLock scans the web and gives you a heads up if your email address or passwords are compromised, so the first person to take action is you. And 3. Consistent and reliable security, without crushing my speeds like so many VPNs. Try Surfshark now at the link below and use promo code MrMobile. You'll get 83% off a year's subscription and 3 extra months free. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. I shoot a lot of footage on smartphones, and let me tell you, filming on the Wing is more fun than on any other. LG obviously took its cues from the controls on gimbal-type smartphone stabilizers, so if you've used something like a DJI Osmo, you'll know how this works. It quickly becomes second nature to execute a pan or tilt by driving the view with the joystick. As you can see here, it's quite a bit smoother than trying the same shot just by physically moving the phone, and it's more comfortable as well. There's a pan-follow mode that limits vertical movement, so you can try a slow side-to-side move. There's a lock button to keep a subject centered in the frame, even if you're moving the camera around.
And there's also a voice bokeh mode to eliminate background noise when you're speaking directly to the camera. While I am speaking directly to the camera, let me tell you something I forgot to record in the voiceover. If you use the gimbal mode a lot, say more than several times a day for extended filming periods, you're going to need to charge the phone before the day is out. In basic mode, it's an all-day smartphone, like most of them are these days, but that gimbal mode sucks a lot of power. Just be advised.
My go-to for most of our 2-day country excursion was the FPV mode, which just limits bounce in all axes, so you get nice, smooth coverage that's perfect for casual vlogging. Or it would be perfect if this hardware was up to the challenge. As you've probably noticed, video from the swivel mode is limited to Full HD, which ain't the sharpest around. Just contrast it with the 4K video you can shoot in basic mode here. See, this is the detailed, dare I say crispy video we've come to expect from a modern phone. Not this half-focused mediocrity you have to settle for in exchange for the gimbal. The reason is simple. When the phone is in gimbal mode, it's using the 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera instead of the 64-megapixel primary. LG is doing this so it can offer the extensive stabilization required for the gimbal effect to work, but the result is, fuzzy footage. That's compounded by poor nighttime performance and a hobbled selfie shooter as well. It's high resolution, and it's cool that it hides away in a little cubbyhole when you don't need it, and I also love that you can record simultaneously on front and back. But on a phone like this, you have to put an ultra-wide lens on your front-facing camera because those are the only selfie shooters worth anything to the kind of vloggers who the gimbal mode is expressly targeting.
What? These design decisions are confusing. This is an interesting device, but it is a confusing device.
You also get to see emo David.
Yeah, that is...
Now, those compromises get a lot easier to understand when you remember that the Wing is an experiment. LG knows it's not going to move millions of these. The whole purpose of the company's Explorer program is to test the waters to see what flavor of weirdness sticks. So for $9.99, this is what you get. The question to my mind is, would you pay more for the same phone with proper hardware that could support things like 4K and universal wide angle? For me, the answer is only if LG fixes problems that have been around for way too long. Its color processing on the camera is still too saturated.
Whoa. Potent.
Low light performance, as I mentioned, is still mediocre. And beyond the camera, the software is sluggish. Touch response isn't the best. The Verizon version has a shameful amount of bloatware, and the keyboard is just awful. And yet, despite all that, this is my favorite LG phone since I started this channel 4 years ago. For years, I've memorialized not just the bolder days of the industry in general, but specifically LG's experimentation with alternative form factors and bleeding-edge materials. I liked the dual-screen case, but it was a half measure. The Wing is a product purpose-built to push the boundaries, and it succeeds far more often than I'd have expected. For the money, most folks will be better served buying something more conventional. But products like the Wing prove that phones are indeed fun again. And I couldn't be happier. Speaking of fun, the LG Wing makes a pretty great ping-pong paddle as well. Credit to David Kogan at The Unlocker for the ridiculous idea. His real-world test video featuring this game and much more footage from our adventure in the countryside is linked in the description. As always, LG provided no compensation for this coverage, nor was it offered copy approval or an early preview of this video. they're seeing it for the first time right alongside you. Until next time, thanks for watching, and remember, when you're near other people, stay safe and mask up while you stay mobile, my friends.